Now, we've talked about Brother Temple and the importance he had on the creation of the lodge. Also, as the head of the Florida Citrus Exchange, he had a lot of local influence. He was approached by a brother named Louis Hakes, who had moved to Winter Park in 1913 to begin an orange grove his father had bought. Brother Hakes noticed that one of his orange trees was producing an orange that was of a different variety. It was delicious, easy to peel, and magnificent orange color. Hakes was brand new to the citrus industry and wasn't sure how to proceed. He went to William Temple, who told him to send the orange off to an expert who pronounced it as a new variety and responded with a great deal of enthusiasm. Temple, guided by Hakes on how to sell the oranges and how it could sell parts of the tree so that other citrus farmers could grow their own. The revenues from this new orange were enormous. It needed a name, and many suggested to Brother Hakes that the name the orange after himself. But Hakes, a humble man, instead named the orange after the man who had helped him through the wise marketing of this new tree, and that's how the Temple orange was named. It was later learned that the orange had its roots in the island of Jamaica, and this one tree had somehow grown from seeds that had come from that island tree. 10% of the revenues of the orange was given to Winter Park Lodge in those early years. Brother Temple died in 1917, the same year that Winter Park got its charter. The front page of the Winter Park Post shared the announcement of his death. On this same front page, which is outside on one of the tables, it was announced that the creation of Pioneer Chapter number 99, Order of Eastern Star in Winter Park had occurred. And I think now I'd like to just take a short break. If we could put those lights on there, Chris, at least up here in the east. Could I ask, you've been introduced to the worthy matron, Rena, and our worthy patron, Bob. Could I ask anybody that's a member of Pioneer Chapter to please stand or just kind of raise your hand if you're unable? Indeed a pleasure to have you all out. We've enjoyed a relationship since the early years, and I think I see no reason why I won't continue for the next 100. I'll be here to see a good 50 of them anyway, but not if my wife has a way. Congratulations. The lodge met for a couple of years in the old Pioneer building before Arthur Schultz in 1921 raised the rent and then soon after announced the sale of the building and requested his money. They began to search for a new place to meet and within a few years found property on Comstock Avenue that could be bought for a reasonable price. Pieces of the property were sold off to offset the cost of the new building construction. The new hall was built in 1925 and cost about $23,000. Money has been borrowed from the Bank of Winter Park, and when the Depression hit, the bank closed and the mortgage notes handed over to the state controller a debt of just over $10,000. In 1935, the state controller finally got around to collecting on the mortgage from Winter Park. An offer was made that if the lodge paid $2,500, the mortgage debt would be satisfied. The lodge began to search for money and approached Brother James Treat, whose wife Lillian was the first worthy matron of Pioneer Chapter number 99. Brother Treat proposed that Pioneer Chapter number 99 and Winter Park Lodge number 239 split the cost of the mortgage, which he would advance, and the two could share the building. The lodge had survived the Great Depression and entered into a strong partnership with Pioneer Chapter that continues to this day. There was a peculiar incident that occurred in 1953 when Winter Park Lodge had its charter taken away by the Grand Master. What makes this incident so peculiar is that there is almost no record of it ever happening. The Grand Lodge proceedings from the years 1952 to 1954 do not mention other than normal business occurring at Winter Park Lodge, but there is no mention of the Grand Master revoking the charter. The most intimate knowledge of this event was lost when Worshipful Robert McCord passed to the Grand Lodge on High in 2009. Brother McCord was senior warden in 1953, when the charter was lost for what he remembered to be a controversial letter mailed by the Worshipful Master of Winter Park. However, the contents of the letter are not known and cannot be found. Brother McCord appealed to the Grand Lodge to have the charter returned, and successfully he was able to get the charter back. Again, there are almost no records of this event. There are, however, two curious entries in the Grand Lodge proceedings for 1953. One is a report from the Committee on Masonic Jurisprudence that there be an amendment to the Constitution that if the Grand Master deems it necessary to take the charter of a lodge until the next Grand Lodge meeting, that a written statement of charges should be provided to the lodge. The amendment was disapproved. There was also a new regulation recommending that no Masons should pass out written communications of a critical or controversial nature. We arrived at the 1960s. The lodge building on Comstock Avenue was beginning to show signs of age. There had never been a major renovation. Originally, there hadn't been much needed parking either, and the Grand Lodge of Florida had ruled that the lodges could not co-own property with other appendant orders like the Eastern Star. The lodge needed to come to a fair resolution with Pioneer Chapter and still be ready to invest major money in the old building to bring it up to code with an elevator and other big expenses. And it was at that time, as a footnote, that we entered into an agreement with the Pioneer Chapter that if they gave us their half of the building, we would provide them a building into perpetuity, and we've made good on that for 67 years now and expect it to continue for the next 67 years. So not to worry. We meet, you'll meet. A new facility was quickly becoming a necessity. Properties were looked at, and Winter Park bought a piece of property on Lee Road that was condemned. They finally agreed to buy 3 acres from the Scottish Rite. At that same time, the sale of the old property was dragging. An offer for $850,000 was accepted and later defaulted on. It took another 3 years, showing the building nearly 50 times and receiving almost 200 offers before the building was finally sold. In November 1987, the lodge's cornerstone was laid in the building we meet today. Unfortunately, our cornerstone was later vandalized and its contents stolen. They might be at the bottom of the pond out there, not sure, because I can't believe anybody that took it would have said, "What the heck is this stuff?" I'll close with some tidbits. The furniture of the lodge was built and presented by Worshipful Dean Hammond, master of the lodge, in 1968. The traveling gavel, started in 1975 by Right Worshipful Robert D. Fiddler, continues to make its way about the 17th District, and I'm glad to see that our Worshipful Master has made arrangements to have it here today. Unborrowed, but actually obtained. There was a petition for letters to start a DeMolay chapter in 1922 requesting the name W.C. Temple Chapter, but there was no further records. However, in 1937, Winter Park chapter of DeMolay was organized and successful with 25 members, but the chapter closed down in 1942 when the members were called to active duty. The Wally D. Myers Fund was later established to help revive the Order of DeMolay in Winter Park. But when the chapter closed in 2000, Worshipful Bobby Grantham recommended the fund go to helping the Bonneville pre-K students, which continued for many, many years. From a hall at Rollins College in 1915 came the lodge we meet in today. From what, as an idea between brothers Benjamin Stone, Homer Pope, Ray Green, J.O. Hale, William Comstock, and others, led to a lodge meeting in a renovated room in downtown Winter Park. With the help of benefactors like William Chase Temple and James Treat, we were formed, survived the Great Depression, and formed a strong century-long alliance with our sisters of the Pioneer Chapter number 99. Along the way, 2 Grand Masters of Florida, George Myers and Harvey Bietti, whose pictures are displayed lit on the south wall, have claimed this lodge as their home. For more than half a century, Winter Park Lodge has hosted the St. John's Day celebration, originally started by Right Worshipful Robert D. Fiddler, and properly prepared every newly elected junior Grand Warden to become Grand Master of Florida, including each one of the Grand Lodge officers sitting there today. We had fun, didn't we? Yeah, now it's fun. Now it's fun. As the world changed and our needs outgrew the first facility we owned, I have to make a note here. This is important. You heard earlier that there was a $35,000 cost to build a new building, and you heard that we had a $10,000 mortgage, and there was a $2,500 reference, and so on and so forth. It doesn't happen often where you're afforded the opportunity to introduce the Worshipful Master of Winter Park, who will be on record as having spent the largest amount with over 700,000 going to this building. That's worshipful Zeb Blanton. Great job you did, though. He's in the books for that, As the world changed and the needs outgrew the first facility we owned, we found a new home here off Howell Branch Road. We have a history of men and women who have gone tireless efforts to build this lodge, which today has 387 members, but our history is not complete. It is an ongoing story that will continue long after we celebrate our 100th anniversary by those who will follow us. Thank you for listening to that short history of Winter Park Lodge.
I'd now like to ask for a moment that we could remember those who have passed on to the Celestial Lodge. Brother Senior Warden, would you please lay a bouquet of flowers at the altar so that we all may remember those who have passed on? Brother Chaplain, would you please lead us in a word of prayer after a brief moment of silence? Please be upstanding, ladies and gentlemen.
Our Father who art in heaven, it has pleased thee to take from among us those who were our brethren. Let time, as it heals the wounds thus inflicted upon our hearts, and in the hearts of those who are near to them, not erase the salutary lessons engraved there, but let those lessons always continuing, distinct and legible, make us and them wiser and better. Let the memory of our brethren increase our affection for those who are not yet spared to us, and make us more punctual in the performance of the duties that friendship, love, and honor demand. When it comes to us also to die, may a firm and abiding trust in thy mercy dispel the gloom and dread of dissolution. Be with us now and sanctify the solemnity of this occasion to our hearts, that we may serve thee in the spirit and understanding. Amen.
So mote it be. Please be seated. Brother Junior Warden, would you please lay upon the altar the wages of a mason, corn, wine, and oil? Worshipful Master, would you please explain these items to our guests?
Corn, wine, and oil are the wages of a fellow craft mason and represent nourishment, refreshment, and joy. Today, we remember that as a lodge, we are no longer in a period of our youth, nor are we late in age, but we are in our adulthood. Our labors continue for each of us and for the lodges as we strive to build a temple more glorious than Solomon, a temple of honor, justice, knowledge, purity, and truth, where our souls shall find rest forever and evermore. That's the show part of the program, but I did want to make a few comments. First of all, I have to say it's with great honor I stand here as the worshipful master in Winter Park's Lodge's Centennial year.